Chapter 1. A well-rounded hand daintily selected a violet-flavoured chocolate cream as smooth and as plump as itself, and conveyed it carefully to a pair of voluptuously cushioned lips. A sigh was mingled with a slight smacking sound as the confection met its end. "How much longer, Tragan?" "Nearly there, Chairman Freeth." The great figure pulled itself to its feet and stretched 2 arms like balloons about to burst. "I find these flights increasingly tedious the older I get," he said petulantly. Tragan's expressionless, pale eyes stared back at him. "Don't forget the commercial," he said. Freeth glanced at the time. He spoke sharply. "Turn it on, then." Unhurried, Tragan moved to a small control panel and pressed a switch. Half-smiling tones flooded the small saloon. All that and more from yours truly and many other fabulous guests after the break. A synthesized burst of sci-fi music took over, only to retreat before a torrent of pseudo-urgent words. "Feeling like nothing on Earth? Come to Space World and fly to the moon." "I nearly missed it. Why didn't you remind me?" "May I point out, Chairman—" "I want to hear this." Freeth sank back onto his overstuffed, over-wide seat. The half-Cockney, half-Yankee voice continued relentlessly. "Only 10 minutes' walk from Hampstead Station, you can find the experience of a lifetime." A great deal was promised. Space rides to take the breath away, lightsaber duels with the robot of death, challenges from the Mars Gladiator to beat, fabulous prizes to be won. But best of all, the monsters from outer space. 21 alien creatures so perfect in every detail, you'll have to believe that they're real. Come to Space World, the great day out for all the family. As Tragan switched off the final dramatic sting of electronic sound, he glanced at Freeth. It was apparent that his ill temper had vanished. Not bad at all," his orotund voice boomed out. "Surprisingly good, in fact. Young Kitson is learning. I could have wished that they had mentioned the name of the corporation, though. That is, after all, the object of the exercise. Perhaps we should have called it the Paracon Corporation Space Park." It was difficult to tell whether Tragan's suggestion was intended seriously. "Like a sponsored horse race, you mean?" "It lacks a certain je ne sais quoi, I would say. Wouldn't you agree?" "If it did the job." "Ah, well, you're a pragmatist, of course," interrupted Freeth. "The finer feelings are a closed book to you." He chuckled comfortably. "It must be the effect of consorting with those ghastly little pets of yours." Tragan looked at him with hooded eyes. "You'd have been in a fine pickle without them last time." A nasty moment. I'm duly grateful." Freeth selected another chocolate with meticulous care. "A pity about the screaming." "And the blood," he added. "Most enjoyable, though." True. Freeth popped in a coconut delight and chumped it up with relish. "It left us with something of a mess to clear up, that's all," he said, a touch indistinctly. Sarah Jane Smith was fed up. Or was she? With a grumbling squeak, the sash window of her little studio flat allowed itself to be pushed up far enough for her to lean out and enjoy the fresh breeze coming from the heath. She gazed across the greenery at the immense structure which dwarfed the trees on the night skyline, and felt again the spasm of frustrated irritation which had become so familiar. Outrageous even to think of building that thing. Who wants a space rocket in their backyard? She returned to the matter in hand. Perhaps fed up wasn't quite the word. Disgruntled? No, not that. But not particularly gruntled either. She giggled at the word and took a couple of deep breaths, savouring the spring smell of the trees beneath her. What was she on about, for heaven's sake? Only a couple of years after taking the plunge into the murky waters of London journalism, she pulled herself up, irritated by the cliché, murky waters indeed, and looked for a suitably wet thought to redeem the suspect metaphor. There is a tide in the affairs of men. Oh yes, and what about women? Leads on to fortune. Well, she wasn't doing too badly. A flat in Hampstead, no less. Well, an attic. And writers were supposed to starve in attics, weren't they? Not that she was exactly starving, of course. A feature writer on a glossy woman's mag might not have found the pot at the end of the rainbow, in spite of the rumours, but she could always find a bob or two for a handful of rice. So what was it? Was it that she had no project at the moment? Even the prospect of visiting some of the loveliest countryside in England had failed to get her excited about Clorinda's only suggestion. All power to the women who were muscling in on the age-old male world of sheepdog trials. But no, her lack of interest was a symptom, not a cause. Did she want a man? Well, since you ask, Sarah dear, no, not at the moment. First sign of madness, talking to yourself. That's what they used to say at school. Huh? Overgrown schoolboys, the lot of them, especially... But Sarah wouldn't even let his name come into her head. Mr. Zero, Mr. Zilch, Mr. Ugh, do forgive me if I throw up. Talking of which... Sarah leaned perilously far out over the window ledge at the sound of raucous singing coming down the alley. Yes, there they were as usual, coming out of the Dog and Duck. That song was yucky enough when old Bleary Eyes wrapped his tonsils around it. But, da-da-da, I've had a few. You can say that again, mate. A memory floated from nowhere into Sarah's head. A slightly dandified figure, dressed in a frilly shirt, a velvet jacket and cloak, standing outside an old-fashioned police telephone box, holding the door open for her. And suddenly her grumpy mood was trickling away, and she was flooded with a warmth which made her lift her eyebrows in surprise. "Good heavens above!" she said aloud. "I do believe I'm missing the doctor." "I did not." With a deal of yawning, Bill and Nobby steered their uncertain course through the long grass in a vaguely northeasterly direction. They could hardly get lost using as their prime navigational aid the massive tower shaped like the original Apollo moon rocket, which rose majestically above the high fence which protected the new theme park. Bill stopped. "Hang on," he said. The singing continued. "Belt up! What's the matter? Opens tomorrow, doesn't it? What are you on about? You know, all that fuss in the papers, monsters and all. What about it? Why don't we go and have a look? Come on!" Bill set off purposefully towards the fence. Nobby took a couple of reluctant steps and stopped. "What if they're real? Monsters, like it said in the paper." Bill kept on going. Nobby slowly followed him. "Yeah, but I mean, what if they are? Don't be a Burke. Come on, give us a leg up. Anyway, they'd be in cages, wouldn't they?" Only half convinced, Nobby made his hands into a step the way he always had. But this fence was higher than the wall of Old Wilson's garden, where they used to go to steal the fruit dropping off the Victoria plum tree, or the corrugated iron barrier which had hindered their one and only attempt to do some real thieving some 3 years ago. In the end, on Bill's insistence that this was the opportunity of a lifetime, they dragged over a fallen beech log victim of last year's gale, and climbed with precarious determination up the stumps of its lost branches towards the ending of their brief and unproductive lives. Freeth wrinkled his nose fastidiously as Tragan returned to the saloon from the rear compartment. The sound of savage snarls was abruptly cut off by the closing of the door. "Don't you ever give them a bath? Would you like to try? You could at least hose them down, or take them for a swim. I can't think why you want to get them out at all. An elementary precaution will be coming into land in a few minutes." Freeth dabbed at his nose with a fine lawn handkerchief, scented with a perfume blended for his exclusive use. "You're always such a moaner, Tragan. There'll be no trouble. Kitson would have warned us." Tragan's voice was as colourless as his eyes. "That's just what you said last time," he said. It was hardly surprising that the building the size of the theme park had roused so much opposition. Rivaling Disney World in size and the scope of its attractions, not only did it swallow up acres of London's favourite open space, it also made it inevitable that the remainder would be trampled into an ugly death. For the style of its odd-looking buildings, some as seemingly fragile as a spider's web, others weighing down the earth as massively as any of the edifices of ancient times, compelling awe in the beholder, the majesty of its wide avenues, lined with peculiar trees as elegant as they were strange, not real. Run your hands over the bark, smell the flowers, the richness of the giant three-dimensional posters, colour holography, but that's impossible. Everything was designed to lure the curiosity and wonder of the paying masses from all over the world. Bill and Nobby, however, found Space World as disappointing as a visit to the seaside out of season. True, there were the vast pavilions of gleaming metal, cold and still in the light of the full moon. There were the alien carriages mutely waiting to carry the daredevil customer into improbable flights of fear. There were the gigantic structures, out of the pages of a science fiction comic, whose purpose could only be guessed. But where was the fun in being offered a view of the giant ostroid? Its kick could disembowel an elephant, if the entrance to his lair was firmly locked. How could you fly through the gargantuan caverns of southern Mars, or take a walk on the wild side of Mercury, if there was nobody there to let you into the solar system? All in all, a total bust. Until... "Hey, look!" cried Nobby. "What? Only a bleeding UFO, innit? It's landing and all. That's a bit more like it." Nobby set off at a fair clip, in a reasonable approximation to a straight line, in the direction he had been pointing. Bill chased after him. "Come back, they'll see us!" "Nobby!" But Nobby kept going. The 2 rows of spaceships in Yuri Gagarin Avenue varied considerably in design. From a simple rocket shuttle to the most far-out alien space station, which barely stopped short of a boggling point, they offered a wide variety of simulated trips through the universe. The western row had now been extended by 1. The newcomer's domed shell had a unique peculiarity. It had, it seemed, no windows or doors, until, with the slightest of humming noises, a crack appeared which broadened to make an exit just wide enough to allow the massive form waiting within to alight, and delicately step towards 2 figures waiting on the tarmac. "Ah, Kitson." "Welcome back, Mr. Freeth," said the younger of the 2. "May I introduce Mr. Grebber?" "How do you do, Mr. Grebber? We meet at last." The thick-set Grebber grasped the pudgy little hand with one that could enclose a brick. "An honour, Mr. Freeth. That's right, honoured, and that." "The honour is all mine, my dear sir. Mr. Kitson has told me of the excellent, nay, the magnificent work your people have done in building our little playground. Allow me to express the gratitude of the Paragon Corporation." Yeah, well, we aim to please. I've always... But Freeth had turned away. No trouble, Kitson? On the contrary, everything's going very well. Freeth turned to the gaunt figure standing in the spaceship entrance. There you are, Tragan. What did I tell you? An old misery guts, that's what you are. Tragan's head jerked sideways. Don't speak too soon, he said. Look. Two figures were coming towards them down the long avenue at a shambling run. The first one stopped. He waved. Where's the little green man then? He shouted. His companion caught up with him and grabbed him by the arm. Nobby, let's get out of here. But Nobby was enjoying himself. He pulled away from Bill and performed an elaborate bow. He stood up and once more peered muzzily towards the frozen group of watchers. Take me to your leader! Tragan came to life. Stepping to one side, he turned and spoke into the ship. Go, go, go! He snapped. Neither Nobby nor Bill could have had time to realize that time had run out for them. With scarcely the chance to throw up an arm in a futile gesture of self-protection, they were as quickly dead as the victims of a sniper's bullets. That was hardly necessary, said Freeth. You heard him, replied Tragan, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. He must have seen the ship landing. The savage snarling of the beasts had already dwindled to a mumbling, slurping growl. Oh, God, there! Grebber staggered into the shadows, retching. Freeth threw him an amused glance and turned to Tragan. Don't let them both be eaten, he said. A mangled corpse could be good publicity.